Guys, it's early in the morning and I get to thinking about people and what conversations I've had with people. And I got to thinking there's a lot of rude people in the world. A lot of people who think that they can just say anything they want. And it doesn't matter if it hurts people. It doesn't matter if there's any consequences. They don't care because they just say what they want and they just go on their way. And I've always been a person that tried really hard not to hurt people's feelings. And I know that I have done that. I guess everybody has, but I don't ever do it on purpose. But I've had a lot of people make remarks about things that I do, how I live, how I treat my children, how my children are, how my parents are, how my husbands are, the fact that I've been divorced. And I just don't understand why people get a kick out of hurting people's feelings. I don't think that anybody ever goes into life thinking they're going to get married 4 times. You'd have to be pretty crazy to do that. But just things happen, and you just try to make the best out of your life. And I get tired of listening to people moaning and groaning about their sad lives, and just I've had sad lives too, but I just make myself better. I know how to get ahead. I know how to take care of my money. If I have a small amount of money, I can live on that. If I have a large amount of money, I can live on that. I've been through life both ways down. Is that not a song? I just make the most of it because life is short and I want to have a good time and I want to enjoy my home and my family and the things we do. And I just don't understand people trying to put you down. I don't understand it. But I've put together just a little bit about my life, and maybe it'll be interesting to you and maybe it won't. I've lived a lot of places and gone a lot of places and done a lot of things and had a lot of jobs, and maybe this will help somebody because I'm proud of my life. I have to say that I'm responsible for my life. No one's responsible for anything of my life but me. I've got myself into trouble and I've got myself out of trouble, and that's just the way you're supposed to do it. That's the way I was taught. I don't ask for handouts. I don't get handouts. I don't give handouts. I just do it on my own. I have a heart. I think about people. I pray for people. I really, really hope people will be happy. I just want everybody to be as happy as I am because I truly am happy, and I've had some unhappy times. I'm sure we all have. So I'm just going to give you a little bit about my life. And I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and I get a lot of remarks about that. But Detroit was the greatest city in the world when I was born there in 1945 to 1955. It was like the richest city in the whole world. And that was thanks to the auto industry and the steel industry and the oil and the tankers and the trains, and everything was centered around Detroit. And it was a great place to be born. And we had some problems later and our family moved away, but it's building back and it's a good place, and I'm proud of having been from Detroit. But this is a little bit about how I lived. At 5, we drove from Michigan to the east. My dad liked to travel. We went to Boston, Plymouth. We crawled on Plymouth Rock. You were able to get onto it back then. Now it's down in a hole with wires around it. Crossed Lake Champlain, and we visited Fort Ticonderoga. My dad was very big on history, educational. My parents were very good teachers. They weren't the most loving people in the world, but they did want us to learn. And So most of our vacations were surrounded by history, and we learned from that, and we enjoyed it. The next year we went to Canada. We stayed in a cottage that was part of a communal setup. It was called Lookabout Lodge. All the families had their own cottages, and then in the evening we all got together, and they had a big building, and that's where we ate our dinners, and we danced and played games. We did darts. We did there was fishing and archery and boating and all kinds of things. We just had a really good time. That was one of my favorite vacations, and I was like 5 or 6. When I was 7, we drove and drove and drove. My dad took us to the east. I was car sick most of the time. Must be ice. I'm a citizen. It's kind of terrible that they're picking up really good people, but that's something that I'm not going to get into right now. Anyway, we drove up we saw mountains in the east. We went and saw a lot of history. We went to Niagara Falls. We always went to Niagara Falls. If you went east from Michigan, you went to Niagara Falls. We did a lot there. We saw a lot of forts. In the east, I don't know if they still do it now, but when I was a kid, they used to have a lot of parades in the summertime, and they'd redo like old wars, not the Civil War, but the war with England. We took family trips every year. My dad was, my dad's motto was, work your ass off 50 weeks of the year, and the last 2 weeks, take a vacation and get the hell out of Dodge. And we did. He did not want to work. He didn't want to be called. He wanted 2 weeks with his family, and we vacationed, and we did great vacations. I have a whole lot of little birds, hummingbirds, flying around me right now because the hummingbird feeder's behind the camera. We began moving when I was 10, and we moved to Ohio. My daddy bought a cabin cruiser. It's a big boat with a cabin down inside, and we spent all the evenings that weren't raining and all weekends on that boat. We went all over Lake Erie. We'd go to Put-in-Bay and North Bass and South Bass and Catawba Island, and we belonged to the yacht club there. We went to fish fries, and my girlfriend, in the summertime, we'd ride our bikes. Her name was Jane. We'd ride our bikes to the yacht club, and we'd play on her dad's boat or my dad's boat. She had a little dinghy. We'd row it out onto the lake. We had a really good time. Summers were great. We lived there from the time I was 10 to 3. 10 to 3? 10 to 3? 10 to 13. When I was 13, we moved to Racine, Wisconsin. None of us really liked it that much, but we still had the boat, and we kept it on Lake Michigan. Very cold lake, but we'd go sometimes to Chicago, sometimes to Milwaukee on the boat, and my dad always had convertibles, so in the evenings we'd ride around. He always wanted us to see where we lived and see the cities around. So we always did that. We'd do weekend visits and vacations. We would see the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox and the Atlanta Braves. Not the Atlanta Braves, it was the Milwaukee Braves then. When I was 14, we moved back to Michigan just for 2 months. My dad was changing jobs, and we still had our house in Ohio, so it was kind of hard for us. We found a house in Phoenix, New York, which is outside of Syracuse. We moved there. It was a tiny little town, and we lived there for about a year and a half. Still had my dad's cabin cruiser. We put it on a river there, and if we'd go one way on the river, we'd go to Lake Ontario. If we go the other way, we'd go to the Finger Lakes, Watkins Glen. We stayed on the boat for a whole week one time and visited Watkins Glen and the other four Finger Lakes. It was really, really neat. My oldest brother then was in college, and Alan, my younger brother, and I traveled with my parents. We went to New York City one weekend. We would go up into the mountains, the Adirondacks. We did a lot of traveling. At 15, we moved back to Dearborn, Michigan. We lived there for about 5 months. It was good to be back with the family. My grandmother had a horse. She had a pony, and she got a horse because I was kind of big for the pony, and so I had a good time there. We stayed there for the 5 months. Then we moved back to DeWitt, New York, which is where I ended up graduating from Janesville DeWitt High School. During that time, I don't think we had a boat anymore, but we'd go for rides up in the Adirondacks. My dad would ski and my mother would snowmobile. And we went up to New York City, and we took a trip up to Maine. I loved that trip. That was the last one I took with the family. Once you're 18, you're out of the family, so they did their own vacationing. But I loved Maine. Alan and I would go for walks up in the rocks. After the tide would go out, we'd find animals. We'd find different kind of fish and jellyfish and what are those things with the octopus, and just kind of things like that. We went up to the St. Lawrence Seaway, and we got a cottage there. We took our cat, and Alan and I rode out right in the middle of the St. Lawrence Seaway, and there were ships going by. I guess that was kind of crazy, but we just did things. It was kind of, we had our cat Herman with us. We loved it. Family, when we moved back, my family began to go to Florida every year. We moved back to Michigan. We lived in, well, I was already working. I had worked at a newspaper, the Syracuse Herald Journal, and then my parents moved back to Michigan, and they made me move back. I had a boyfriend. I was going to get married there, but I moved back to Michigan. I got a job at General Motors, and my parents started traveling to, my cat's in there quiet. She wants to come out. You can't come out, baby. She's so cute. Anyway, I started dating, and my first husband didn't like vacations. His name was Richard. But I got him to drive to Syracuse to see my friends, and I did get him to go to North Carolina because his home office, he was a salesman for McLean Trucking, and his home office was in Winston-Salem, so I did get him to take a trip down to North Carolina, Raleigh, and that was a nice vacation. I got pregnant with my third child, and we also went up to, we went to the ocean. He had never seen the ocean, and we went to Virginia Beach. She's still crying. We did walk in the water, in the ocean, up to our ankles. That was it. He hated water. When my marriage to Richard was over, I just, we had moved to Toledo, actually, before the marriage was over. Moved to Toledo, and that's where I had John. That's when we had traveled. And we didn't like Toledo too much, but then he got transferred to Cincinnati. When we moved to Cincinnati, that's when we got divorced. And but we lived near Kings Island. We had a nice house there. We did some traveling, not that he wanted to, but for business he had to travel. And we'd go back to Michigan to see my family. In the meantime, they ended up moving to Wisconsin, not to Wisconsin. They moved to Florida. We had lived in Wisconsin. I think I already told you that I lived in Wisconsin. Lived on Lake Michigan. Did a lot of traveling there. And but then when I turned 30, Richard left, and I was on my own, 500 miles from my family. I had 3 small children, so I took trips back home to Michigan, but then they moved to Florida. So I started going on trips to Florida. I married Jim at 32, and we bought a camper. We had a tent at the beginning, and we bought he had a van, so we would stay in the van, and the kids would tent. I'm not into tenting. But then we liked it so much we bought a camper. And we would camp on different lakes, and we went camping in the mountains. We camped in Kentucky at Mammoth Cave. We really enjoyed that. Then he got transferred to Alabama. We put the camper up on rocks, not on rocks, on blocks. We lived in a big house on the lake, and we had a pool, so we didn't really need to do a lot of vacationing then. However, he and I went to Las Vegas, and we went to Florida with the kids. We did Disney World a lot. We had 6 kids between us, so we did a lot of traveling. We went back to Ohio to visit his family, and Florida to visit my family. And we got divorced. He had a different lifestyle than I did, and we found that out a little too late. But I married a man named Bill, who was a really fine man, and he didn't do a lot of traveling, but he was excited to do it. And I won a cruise at work, and we started cruising. We cruised to the Caribbean islands, and he just loved that. We would go to Atlanta a lot. He just loved to do anything. He had never been out of Alabama till I married him, so he was such a good man. But I got transferred in my job to Mississippi. That was strange. When we moved to Mississippi, we did a lot of traveling around Mississippi, and we went up in the mountains in Gatlinburg, and it was just a lot of fun. But he got very ill. His kidneys went, and he ended up dying, and I moved back to Alabama. My kids were still here. The kids were grown by then. And when I moved here, I met Phil Manus, and that's who I'm married to now. We've been married almost 28 years, and we traveled around a lot. We went to Las Vegas. We went up to Ohio, and a lot to Florida, because he was from Florida. My parents stayed in Florida. My mom died, my dad remarried, but we did a lot of Florida. Anyway, when I married Phil, we started cruising a lot. We went on a cruise with my brother and my cousin, and we ended up loving it so much. We cruised Hawaii 3 times. We cruised Alaska. We went to Europe. We visited England, Ireland, France, Belgium, Holland. We went to every island in the Caribbean. We loved Costa Rica and the Panama Canal, Aruba, Curacao, St. Thomas, St. John, Cozumel. A few years ago, I traveled in a U-Haul with my girlfriend, and we drove out to Phoenix, Arizona, and we saw a lot of presidential museums, Clinton, And when I went on a trip with my girlfriend out to Nebraska, Kansas, we saw Eisenhower and Truman libraries, so it was kind of neat. I love to see things like that. I've been a big traveler. I really enjoy cruising. It's like camp for adults, and there's always something to do. It's not cheap. People that say it's cheap, I mean, it can be cheap. You can get by on $300 or $400 a person if you travel on the little ships, and that's great. I think it's great that people that don't have the money are allowed to have vacations. And I've taken my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, I mean, they're all VIPs, but there are a lot of expensive ones too. I've spent $8,000 or $10,000 on Hawaii and Alaska, and Europe. So it's just what you want to spend on it. I resent the fact that people say it's a junkie cruise, a junkie vacation. It's not. I think it's great. I get nice rooms. I do what I want to do, and I don't do what I don't want to do. But I love all kinds of vacations. I love to fly places, although I'm kind of scared of flying now because I don't think there's very stringent rules on the flying anymore. We have kind of a strange president that's taken away a lot of the rules and regulations. So I just think there's advantages to all ways of life. There's advantages to being wealthy. There's advantages to being poor. I think maybe poor people enjoy the small things of life and learn to enjoy their family a little bit more. But the main thing is, I've learned in my life that you don't hurt people. You don't say what you want to say because it hurts people. You don't hurt your family members. You don't hurt your friends. You don't hurt people. I don't hurt anyone unless they hurt me first. And I usually take a whole lot before I fight back. I don't see the enjoyment in fighting, but I don't really enjoy being knocked down and dragged around by people that should care about me. And I've learned to put people out of your life that make you unhappy. I've tried and tried and tried to help some people that I think are having problems and that I think are on a dangerous route. I do love them, but I can't continue to let my life be drawn down trying to help other people. I think it's my duty as a human being to try to help people, and I do it out of love and respect for them. But I'm just not gonna, I'm 80 and I'm not gonna ruin my life for other people anymore. I'm sorry that I can't help people the way that I would like to. I'm still here and I still have an ear, but I've had bad things happen in my life. You just have to grow from that. You have to get strong from it. You have to enjoy life. You have to find the things that you enjoy. If you like reading a book, then read a book. I love to read. If you like TV, watch TV. If you want to travel, travel. If you want to just stay in your house or go for a walk or drive down by the beach, just do things because that's what keeps you alive. And if you don't want to live, don't try to bring other people down. People try to help you, but you know, sometimes people just drain you, and taking care of sick people drains you. Taking care of dying people drains you. And you do what you have to do, but when you get to the point where you can't do it anymore. And that was the point of this whole thing, because I keep track of my life. I keep track of what I eat. I keep track of where I go and what I do, because it's just memories for me. Now that I'm getting older, sometimes I forget a little bit, and I want to remember. I want to remember the trips that I took when I was 5, and I want to remember the movies that I saw when I was 10, and I want to remember the places I went, and I remember the schools that I went to. I want to 5 schools in 5 states in the 9th grade. I mean, that's a very unusual thing. And I just want to remember it all. We're all going to end up the same place. We're all going to end up dead. And it's not a bad thing. That's the circle of life. We're born, we live, and we die. But I think that God wants us to enjoy our life. He gave us the ability to do all these things, to go places, to do things, to learn things, and I make full use of it as much as I can, and I hope other people do too. Life is for the living. Life is to be enjoyed. Enjoy your life. Don't hurt people. Don't bring people down, and get rid of your pain. If someone is hurting you, get away from it. I have done that, and if I'm hurting somebody, they need to get away from me. I try not to hurt people, but sometimes in our lives we do. And I don't hate anyone for staying away from me. If I'm not the right kind of person, then that's fine. And I'm not going to stay around the people that are not right for me. I've got some birds that are trying to get into the... I'm going to turn...